Honorable Speaker, this is a very short motion, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that, I'm looking for the supplementary order paper. That the House considers that the Senate amendments to the Gambling Control Bill, National Assembly Bill number 70 of 2023 be now considered. Honorable Speaker, this Gambling Control Bill is a bill that this House passed early last year, you remember, together with the Betting Control Bill. And because it had provisions that touch on county governments, it was conveyed to the Senate for consideration. And the Senate did move a number of amendments, which have since been considered by the Committee for Sports under the chairmanship of Honorable Wanyama. And Honorable Speaker, the committee in its report, which they tabled towards the tail end of the last session, recommended that we object or we reject all the Senate amendments, Honorable Speaker. And many of the amendments, Honorable Speaker, that are being amended, that were amended by the Senate, and which the committee has proposed that we reject, counter to the provisions of articles of the Constitution touching on the different functions of the two levels of government between the national government and the county functions. They are also contrary to the provisions of Article 109 of the Constitution on the exercise of legislative powers. Honorable Speaker, maybe for clarity, Article 109, Honorable Speaker, says that Parliament shall exercise its legislative power through bills passed by Parliament and assigned to the President. And Parliament in this instance means both chambers of Parliament. But any bill may originate from the National Assembly. 3 says that a bill not concerning county government is considered only in the National Assembly and passed in accordance with Article 122. And because this bill did concern counties, that is why it was not only considered by the National Assembly alone, and we took it to the Senate. 4 is that a bill concerning county governments may originate in the National Assembly, like this bill, or the Senate, and is passed in accordance with Articles 110 and 113, 122 and 123 of the standing orders. And 5, a bill may be introduced by any member or committee of the relevant House of Parliament, but a money bill may be introduced only in the National Assembly in accordance with Article 114. Honorable Speaker, many of the amendments that were inserted into this bill from the Senate are amendments that touch on or that had a money bill effect, and therefore making this bill, which originally was not a money bill, a money bill. And therefore, there is no way that this House, under Article 109 of the Constitution, would allow the Senate to usurp the powers of the National Assembly in terms of introducing bills that have a money bill effect. Because, Honorable Speaker, it is the Constitution that says that only the National Assembly may consider bills that have a money bill effect. Whether it is the imposition of taxes, levies, or charges to Kenyans or from the Exchequer, Honorable Speaker, that can only be done by the National Assembly. And therefore, many of the amendments, Honorable Speaker, that you will see that were done by the Senate touched on imposition of taxation, imposition of levies, imposition of penalties and charges, things that can only be done by this House, Honorable Speaker. And I know, Honorable Speaker, there are people in the Senate who thought that it's an ingenious way of introducing such provisions, then take this bill to mediation to consider these bills. And Honorable Speaker, I want to implore on you, when and if we reject these amendments and we go into mediation, all the clauses that touch or have a money bill effect, Honorable Speaker, I would beg that you do ask the House or the mediation committee not to consider those clauses, because it will be unconstitutional. Completely unconstitutional, Honorable Speaker. 2, Honorable Speaker, besides those provisions being unconstitutional having been introduced in the Senate, it is also not possible to re-legislate on certain things that we have already legislated on. Towards the tail end of the last session, Honorable Speaker, we legislated on the Tax Procedures Act bill, which is now an act of parliament. We legislated on the tax amendment bill, which is now an act of parliament. Some of the provisions that the Senate had amended to in this bill are covered under the Tax Amendment Act of 2024. And therefore, reintroducing the same clauses in this bill, Honorable Speaker, again will be unprocedural, against our own standing orders, unconstitutional, illegal, null and void. And therefore, I would beg that, Honorable Speaker, when you are making your determination on the clauses that will be mediated on, you do direct that the mediation committee, when we form one, ceases or does not consider some of these provisions that are unconstitutional and have already been legislated on, especially touching on the money bill provisions, Honorable Speaker, because we cannot allow the Senate as a lower house to take over the mandate of the upper house. And you know, Honorable Speaker, I have never used those words in my almost 13 years in this house, which house is upper to which one. Because it's not important, Honorable Speaker, but it is important to adhere to the provision of this Constitution. The drafters of this Constitution had reasons as to why they did not give powers to appropriate resources to the Senate. They had reasons why they never gave powers to the Senate to levy taxation or even fees and levies to Kenyans. And they had reason why they said that the Senate represents the counties and the National Assembly represents the people of Kenya. And therefore, it is only those who represent the people of Kenya who can impose taxation on them. The Senate cannot go behind our backs, Honorable Speaker, and begin to impose taxes, then pretend that we can come and mediate on taxation. We cannot mediate on tax matters with the Senate, Honorable Speaker. And that I want to beg the House to agree with the Committee of Sports and reject in totality all the amendments that came from the Senate. And we can then mediate on all the other clauses except those that touch on the money bill, that have a money bill effect. With those, Honorable Speaker, I beg to move. And I want to ask the Honorable Karoli Omondi, who I believe is a member of this committee, to second. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Thank you very much, Majority Leader. I have the pleasure in seconding the motion that the Senate amendments to the Gambling Control Bill now be considered. And as the Majority Leader has pointed out, there are several inconsistencies or legal challenges that we identified in relation to the proposed amendments. Some of them naturally offend certain legislations. For example, you'd see the Senate is proposing to amend Clause 7 to the effect that the composition of the board of the proposed authority does not have a representative of the Attorney General. The State Corporations Act, Cap 446, as well as the Mwongozo Code of Governance, actually make such membership mandatory. So we really cannot accede to that proposed amendment. There are also other amendments that conflict with the intentions of the bill. Several of those you will see, like in Clause 10, as well as in Clause 11. And then some of the proposed amendments, apart from conflicting with the Constitution, as well as various statutes, as the Majority Leader has pointed out, were matters that were covered by the recently passed tax amendment laws. As a committee, we would like to propose that we go for mediation and that this House rejects all the proposed amendments and we go for mediation, and hopefully we can find a solution to this matter. But we are not persuaded by any of those amendments, and we cannot accede to any of them for various reasons, such as breach of provisions of Article 109 of the Constitution and other laws. With those few remarks, I support. Thank you.